Looking back to Game of Thrones Season 7, one thing that was desperately missing was the inclusion of Jon Snow's direwolf, Ghost. And looking forward to Game of Thrones Season 8, something I have heard again and again from the amazing fans in this community is that the direwolves deserve justice, especially our good friend Ghost. And it looks like this is going to become a reality. Hey everyone, it's Kyle here again with another Game of Thrones Season 8 video, and today I come with the gift of good news that was confirmed from the mouth of the visual effects supervisor, Joe Bauer, that our beloved direwolf friend Ghost will be returning in Game of Thrones Season 8. Oh, you'll be seeing him again. He has a fair amount of screen time in Game of Thrones Season 8, Bauer said. He does show up, and he's very present, and does some pretty cool things. This is fantastic news because Ghost is a very important part of the story, and the direwolves are symbolic in so many ways, being that they are essentially an extension of each House Stark sibling. But before we dive more deeply into symbolism and predictions for Game of Thrones Season 8, here's what Joe had to say about ghosts not being included in Game of Thrones Season 7. The direwolves are tough because you don't want to get them wrong, so we end up always shooting real wolves and doing a scaling trick with them, but the real wolves only behave in certain ways, Bauer said. I think that has something to do with why the direwolves are in the show, but they're not maybe as integral as they are in the books. We discussed that this was a possible reason why Ghost wasn't included in Game of Thrones Season 7, and it's a shame because I believe he could have had some very interesting interactions with Bran, and especially Arya and Sansa, who were playing the game with Littlefinger. I mean, damn, I love the fact that Arya sliced open Littlefinger's throat, but it would have been very symbolic and impactful if the symbol of House Stark, the direwolf, ripped out Littlefinger's throat for his many betrayals. But I suppose Ramsay met that fate, and they decided that Littlefinger would go out like Catelyn Stark, the woman he claimed he loved the most. It's very important that we understand that the direwolves do serve an important metaphorical purpose. The direwolves' names are important as well as other factors. For example, Summer suggests that Bran will be important in bringing the return of summer. Lady represented Sansa's goal of becoming a lady. Grey Wind suggested the nature of Robb Stark's journey. And Nymeria suggests that part of Arya's journey will relate to the story of the Rhoynish Queen. And Shaggy Dog, obviously, is that Rickon's story is not very important, since the Shaggy Dog story goes nowhere. The fate of the direwolves seemed to be connected to the Starks. The mother direwolf's death symbolized what happened to Ned. Grey Wind died when Robb did, and the death of Lady leads me to believe that Sansa will never be a lady again, as she lost her connection to the Stark family when she was in the South. And Summer died protecting Bran from the undead, which represents the icy cold nature of winter and the White Walkers. But what about Ghost and Nymeria? Well, in the 5th book of the Song of Ice and Fire series, A Dance with Dragons, we see Summer and Nymeria feast on human flesh. Now, Ghost could possibly do the same after Jon becomes a ghost after his assassination and enters as direwolf, but what really interests me is the fact that Nymeria and Ghost are still alive in the show, which means they could possibly feast on the flesh of the undead in the War for Dawn. There's nothing positive about murder, but what if symbolically the direwolves feasting on the flesh of the dead could be connected to the lone wolf dies but the pack survives? Now, hear me out for just a second. The undead are bound to the consciousness of the Night King, who controls them in this hive mind-like state. He acts like a beacon, connecting with them elementally with the forces of the cold. What if the direwolves eating the flesh of the dead and fighting in the War for the Dawn symbolizes getting rid of the weak? And yes, the undead are weak because they are controlled by one mind, the mind of the Night King who seeks retribution. We know that the side who fights for the living is a group mostly of good people bonding together as one unit to make sure they endure and survive, so they can continue on and go on and make change, or at least inspire change. And Jon Snow, someone who has been mostly in the shadows, connected to the color black, is now called the White Wolf, trying to bring about change in the realm so there can be some sort of semblance of peace. And this is why Jon won't be a ghost anymore when Ghost dies. When all is said and done, Jon will be faced with a choice which is ultimately linked to the Iron Throne, which was represented by one person having power over the people of Westeros, much like the Night King has commanded over the power of the undead. Aegon the First built the Iron Throne, and Aegon Targaryen Jon Snow will melt it down. Hashtag Free Ghost has been a success, everyone. Ghost is back, and I couldn't be more excited. And of course, if you're hyped like I am about this news, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And make sure you hit that notification bell if you do want to see more Game of Thrones videos like this one. Also, don't forget to enter the giveaway for the copy of Game of Thrones signed by George R. R. Martin himself by clicking the link in the description of this video. There is 9 ways to enter in total, and it's going to be an awesome giveaway. It's going all the way up until December 19th of this year. And of course, a big thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon. I couldn't do this without you. The links to my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are in the description of this video. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Hype and love.